Welcome to the Music Habits Podcast, episode 60.
Welcome to the Ableton and Music Habits Podcast. Actionable music production tips to take your music to the next level. And now, your host, Jason Timothy.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to get into the importance of making music when you're busy and uninspired. Now, most producers find producing great work difficult even when they are inspired. So how can you possibly make it work when the circumstances aren't ideal? Also, how do you even make the time? Fact of the matter is, a busy life rarely gets less busy. So you need to develop the skills of working your passion into your life, especially when you're busy. You don't want to learn this lesson when you've got tons of free time, because then you'll just stop when life gets busy again. The real secret is that time is always available for the things that are non-negotiable. You have to eat, you have to use the bathroom. If you've got kids or pets, you have even more non-negotiables. So the truth is, you do have time for the non-negotiables, and somehow it all gets done, whether you feel like it or not. The alternative is letting your creative goals get squashed and thrown out the window every time you get busy. So you really need to choose wisely here. The issue with you avoiding your music, whether you have good excuses or not, is that avoidance becomes a habit. So why do you have a hard time with your music even when you are inspired? It's because your avoidance trigger kicks in anytime things get difficult, and you have a very low tolerance for discomfort. Those who work on music every day have built the resilience to discomfort and circumstances that aren't ideal, and have practiced working through it. This is exactly why those who work when they aren't inspired and don't have time put out more high quality work than those who only work when they're comfortable and inspired. Even an inspired session will eventually run into challenges and roadblocks. When this happens, the session either ends or you just repeatedly listen to an 8-bar loop, convincing yourself that this is somehow productive. Another advantage of working when you're busy and uninspired is that doing good work eventually becomes automatic. Just like driving, you don't even have to think about being a good driver. In fact, most of the time you aren't even thinking about driving. It's just a natural extension of daily practice. I suppose bad drivers get a lot of practice too, and that's simply because they didn't learn the fundamentals well enough and no one has given them the feedback they need to correct it. As a music maker, you typically tighten up your bad habits when you either notice negative reactions to your music or no response at all. When you're rewarded with a great response to your work, you tend to take note and move more into that direction. Successful artists have less and less time with travel, promo, interviews, shows, release deadlines, and all the other stuff. They're likely just as busy as you are with your job right now. And just like you, sometimes they don't like their job and sometimes they don't feel like creating. When you're disciplined enough to write when you're busy and feel like crap, you'll find that inspiration finds you much more often. Also, you don't have to remind yourself where you're at on a particular song. You'll know exactly where you left off. You also won't get down on yourself on those days that are much less productive. You always know that you're just a day away from another chance to nail it. If you stop searching for ideal circumstances and instead start practicing your art in less ideal circumstances, you'll become a creative force to be reckoned with. So how do you make time when you don't really have it? If you're a busy person and want to make time for your music, I suggest you get a notepad and from morning until the moment you go to sleep, write down every activity you do throughout the day. Anytime you change what you're doing, write it down along with the time that you did it. If you take a phone call, get out for water, or use the restroom, write each of those down. If you do this for a few days, you'll really be able to accurately see where your time goes. And with this information, you'll likely find where your time goes and how much of it could be used more efficiently. In fact, while writing the last paragraph, I just spent 5 minutes watching my indoor cat obsess on the squirrels outside. The fact is, we want to be distracted because most work isn't fun and doesn't trigger our reward centers in our brain. So we settle for the small, meaningless rewards instead of delaying our gratification for the accomplishment of something meaningful to us. If you can break this habit and recognize when your brain searches for cheap thrills, you can find time to do more meaningful work on a more consistent level. So get comfortable working in conditions that are not ideal, and you'll become almost invincible. Make sure to check out my song recovery guide. It's completely free. All you got to do is go to musicsoftwaretraining.com/recovery. And if you have those songs that have lost their spark, this will help you get the spark back to the songs. And with that, happy music making, and I'll see you in the next one.